How's it going, everybody? Long time no see. Just kidding. If you watched the show yesterday, then yeah, we just spoke and I just saw you. However, today's show is going to be a little different. We have a guest speaker coming on, a good friend of mine, member of the mastermind I'm a part of, great guy, a lot of great experiences and a lot of great knowledge that hopefully we'll be able to tap into tonight. And now I'm talking about none other than Chris Allen. All right, so I'm not going to do too much talking about who he is and what he does. I'm going to give him the opportunity to do that, but you guys are definitely in for a treat. All right, so let's go ahead and get him on here. Hey, what's
Hey,
going on, man?
hey, how you doing tonight?
Pretty good, pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Really glad to be here.
Well, I'm thankful that you were able to make the opportunity to hop on. Would you mind giving the people in the background an opportunity to know a little bit about yourself, who you are, and what you do?
Sure, of course. My name is Chris Allen. I'm the owner of Allen Fitness. I'm an online personal trainer. I first started personal training a little over a year and a half ago, shortly before COVID started. I was working at the YMCA as a personal trainer, was getting a little experience there. And then COVID hit back in February, March. My gym closed down and pretty much had no choice but to go, all the way online. And honestly, it was probably the best thing that ever happened career-wise to me since I get to help people from pretty much anywhere in the world. And it's just been great so far.
That's pretty awesome, man. I mean, my story is similar. I feel like I was having a pretty decent time before COVID, but COVID definitely opened up some different opportunities. I mean, in a sense, it kind of forced us to get more creative. Would you agree?
Definitely. Definitely. I had to learn a whole bunch of stuff that they didn't teach you when you're getting your personal training education. That's for sure.
Definitely, definitely. All right. So since I know a little bit more than the people that are watching, I have a very good question for you. Can you explain to the people how Bruce Lee fits into your beginnings?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Bruce Lee was always a huge influence to me ever since I was a little kid. Some of the very first movies I ever remember watching. Um, so I just always really was in awe of everything he could do as far as, I mean, his presence, how how great he was at martial arts, his physique. And about 10 or so years ago, I came across a book called The Art of Expressing the Human Body.
Hmm.
And what the book is, it was by a guy named John Little, who I believe was one of Bruce Lee's students. Don't quote me on that part though. And this book is all about Bruce Lee's fitness routines outside of his martial arts training. I'd never seen or even heard people really talk about that, about how ahead of his time he was as far as bodybuilding, general fitness, conditioning, cardio. I mean, he trained not only fighters, but he was really respected by bodybuilders as well. So this book explained all about his practices as far as how he lifted weights, his general nutrition, his isometrics, cardio stuff he did. It even had samples of his calendar and how he organized his workouts. And that's what really fascinated me because he was so far ahead of his time and he was already such a big influence to me. I just wanted to be that. So, yeah, a huge influence to me all through my life, even still.
That's pretty unique. Because I am also a huge fan of Bruce Lee. Like that is my freaking guy. I remember being a kid, and back when they had the Super Nintendo, they had a game called what was it? Into the Dragon. I want to say it was, and that was probably hands down my absolute favorite game. I even had the DVD or not DVD, the cassette player. You know, the little freaking video square boxes you had back in the day for the VCR at my
Yep.
grandma's house, and I wore that thing out. Definitely a huge fan. Which helps us kind of get into the next portion because I don't know how many people are aware of the fact that Bruce Lee was a bit of a philosopher. And so, us being personal trainers, I wouldn't go as far as saying we're philosophers ourselves, but we definitely dabble, in interpreting and understanding and having unique experiences with that whole mind and body connection. So, would you mind giving people your idea and your feedback on those types of things as far as where the mindset plays a role in training?
Oh, that's definitely a deep rabbit hole to go down there. But some basic things that I think are really important is, for one, I think a lot of people tend to give up way too soon. They'll get started on something like me, like say somebody wants to lose weight, for example. they start really, really strong. They're really motivated in the beginning, and before they know it, it's been 2 weeks. They're not seeing a whole bunch of results yet, and it's the level of stress just has been wearing on them, and they tend to lose that motivation after a little while. So the question became, what do you do when motivation runs out? Because at some point it will. Motivation, willpower, they're good. They're great to have. They're great to exercise because they're like muscles, and the more you use them, the stronger they get. But like muscles as well, eventually they will give out. So you can't rely on them all the time forever. So what do you do when you get to the point where motivation isn't really there? And I know people have probably heard things like you got to remember your why, all of this. And yes, that's true. But I think it's even deeper than that. When you think about it, you want to really find what your purpose is. There's your why you want to do stuff, why you want to improve yourself, why you want to lose weight. Those are all great things to know. You have to know those things. But what about beyond that? What about when the idea of even the goal just doesn't sound as appealing because you're fatigued mentally? What do you do then, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there it is. You gotta really figure out how to get your mind into that place to where when you're not motivated, you keep going anyway. And of course, that gets into the whole discipline, area of things. You just gotta do it anyway. You get up, you don't feel like going to the gym, you gotta go to the gym anyway, unless you're injured. If you really, really want something, you really are determined to make it happen, you find a way. So when you lose that motivation, that's a test that really lets you know how much you really want something.
Oof. I like that. I like that. That's one of the biggest questions ever. I found myself in some positions at times where, I'm tired, whether it's getting up in the morning to go to a session or staying up a little later at night to write out a program for someone. And, like you said, motivation isn't enough, so that overarching question of how badly do you want it? How badly do I want the results that I know come with me doing the things that I intend to do and that I set out to do?
Yeah.
And before we go too far into that, I would like you, if you could, to explain how the whole mindset portion plays a role in the mission of Allen Fitness.
That's pretty much the core of the entire thing. The Allen Fitness mission statement is, I have it right here. I help relentless professionals perform at their very best in every area of life through fitness, mindset, and nutrition strategies that form lifelong habits and practices. Now, the reason I start with the health, with the fitness and the nutrition, is because that's your basics. I mean, that's you taking care of yourself on a basic level. That's the beginning. Once you can master, getting past that lack of motivation to get fit or eat healthy, or uh, you get stopped and it becomes a matter of discipline. That's when the things become important, and you really have to go after those habits. And when you practice those things repetitively and long enough, eventually you don't have to think about it anymore. And that's how you change things from go from one thing to an established habit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I like that. I like what you said there. Before we go too far into the next portion, I kind of want to go back a little bit and talk about the whole motivation idea and how sometimes, motivation isn't there at the beginning. From my own experience, like I said, motivation isn't always there. Even more so when I talk about working out personally, after you get done training with your clients, after you get done coaching everyone in the world and sharing everything, you still have to go to the gym for yourself. You still have to be like, all right, well, I've done X, Y, Z. Now it's time. It's game time, and I am freaking tired. Or maybe it's first thing in the morning, and you're like, man, I know I still got to work out 2 other times today with a group of people and one other guy after that. I really just don't feel like it. And motivation does become a factor. And to go along with what you said earlier, one thing I found to be true multiple times is the idea that the motivation may not be there at the beginning, but when I walk through the door and I make it through my warm up, and then I get through that first set, now all of a sudden I'm motivated. Now all of a
Yes.
sudden my body is woken up like, oh shoot, okay, this is what we doing. I'm here.
That's one thing I like to tell myself when I'm not really feeling like it, just have faith that once you get there and you start, you will feel like it. That's all. You don't have to start off all, really intense. Just start with your warm up. Start moving around a little bit. Do 5 push-ups. Lift, bench press just the bar for a couple sets. Just get your blood pumping and get moving. Your body and your mind will both catch up to your intention every time.
Dig it. Michael chimed in. He said, "It's the grind.
Yep.
I should do it enough." I dig that. Right on, Mike. Right on.
Absolutely.
All right. So let's go ahead and get into the next portion of that. We talked a little bit about habits. So if you could share a little bit more with us about some ways that we can start implementing those habits, or at least your whole philosophy on that in general.
Okay. Well, I think that a lot of the time when people are motivated and they want to take on a life change, lose weight, getting in shape and whatnot, they tend to overplan things, overthink things, and even worse, try to take on too many aspects of it all at the same time. For example, somebody wants to lose some weight, they'll be like, okay, I need to meal prep, I need to work out, I need to make sure I'm buying the right food, I need to count my macros, my calories, my water, my nutrients. Is everything okay? And what supplements should I take? Whoa, slow down. First, number one thing is let's establish where you are. But let's just take nutrition specifically to start with. First, one thing I tell my clients and all the time in the beginning, for the first 2 weeks, write down or log what you eat and when and how much in MyFitnessPal, or write it down for the first 2 weeks. Don't even change your habits. I just want to get an objective bird's eye view of where we are now, because you can't reliably chart a destination without knowing where you are first. You have to orient yourself.
Right.
And then when they do that, let's say this person writes everything down and I see that they might eat vegetables once a week or once every 2 weeks or something, right? Instead of saying, okay, let's lower all your calories, let's count all your macros to start with. I mean, if people are really ready for that thing, we might go a little further, but I will start it out very basic. All I want you to do is make sure you eat some vegetables at least once a day for a month. Can you do that? And then when people do something like that for a month or longer, we add a little bit more. I'll add a little something else on there, like maybe, okay, start measuring out your protein. Just do that. In addition to the vegetables, do that. They're not even thinking about the vegetables now because it's already something that's an established habit. And when we talk about establishing habits, it's really a physiological thing. You may have heard the 21 days or 28 days of repetition to establish a habit. And that's true. Once you keep doing something long enough, it no longer relies on your active conscience to activate the habit. You don't have to really try to eat your vegetables. You just, oh, I'm eating vegetables. I wasn't even thinking about it. It's just something I do now. And then you add on more. That's where I think the long-term habits and practices can really be established. When we build first we establish where we are, then we build step by step from there. Eventually a person becomes a whole macro calorie counting pro, and they can understand exactly what they need to do to get to whatever goal they need, because goals change over time. What happens when you lose that 50 pounds? What are you going to do then? Just stop? No, there's going to be a new goal there. So let's get everybody ready so that they can get to the next goal and understand where they're going, because the more you learn, the more fine-tuned and honed in your goals are going to be, and more specific. And then you'll really be able to excel at what you're trying to excel at. You'll be able to start mastering things instead of dabbling.
Mm-hmm. I like that. I like that a lot. I like the fact that your message is very consistent. I want to say it was about a month ago, I was watching one of your lives and you were talking about mastering one thing. And I found it very refreshing that you brought that same thing back to this. So that's definitely on point. Definitely on point.
Yeah, there's that saying that Bruce Lee had, I don't fear the man that has practiced 10,000 kicks one time. I fear the man that practiced one kick 10,000.
Yeah. Hey, I like that one. We have a comment on here from Natasha. She said, I agree about that motivation. You know, once you get up, but then once you're there, it's like 100% in, or it's like I'm 100% in. Yeah,
Yep. And
definitely.
yeah, and then not only that, you feel so much better that you overcame that hesitation and did it anyway. So it compounds on itself as far, and you get your motivation back and then some. So
Right.
it makes it even more worth it.
Very nice. Very nice. We also have a message from Michael, more of a question. I'll leave this one for you. He says, is morning training more beneficial for the system? What is your take on that?
That's a really common question when people are thinking about when do I work out and all that. Honestly, it's whatever works better for you. Personally, I like to work out in the morning because it helps me get my head right for the day. While I'm working out, I'll kind of think about things, and that's my meditative time. But some people like to get everything out of their way and then unwind with their workouts at the end of the day. So if we're talking simply physically, that's really up for debate. Most people will tell you, and most trainers will say, it doesn't really matter as long as your full day's habits and goals are in line and you, you get it done. So I think it's less important when you work out and more important that you work out. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I like that a lot. And, I'm not going to go too far on the deep end on that question at all. But I mean, we start thinking about the circadian rhythm, in our internal clocks. Like everyone's going to be better at certain points of the day at certain things. Like, granted, our bodies go through similar patterns, but you can manipulate that. If you get up in the morning, you work out enough times in the morning, eventually you will be someone who enjoys the morning workout. Just as if you wait and you start doing it in the evening, eventually you will be a person who enjoys the evening workouts.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say there is a good or a worse time to do it. I would definitely agree with Chris and say just get it done.
Now I will say that, if you can, mix it up. Really, just for the sake of your mental well-being, get out there sometimes really early in the morning and smell that fresh air. Sometimes wait until nighttime when you've had all your food for the day and then you're all fueled up. Sometimes that can help you have some more energy. Do both. Keep it alive so that you don't get stuck and plateau mentally.
I like that answer. I used to train with a guy back in the day when I used to be a big fan of pre-workouts. I'm not saying that I don't dabble here and there, but I don't really do anything before I work out besides listen to some music and go to the gym. But back in the day, there was a time when I enjoyed, the C4 or whatever the new trendy thing was back then. And I worked out with a guy who felt like he could not train without taking whatever that supplement was. So if he
Mhm.
ran out for a week, he just was not going to the gym. Like that was
Oh,
just it. And I find that, there may be people, when it comes to training, like if they can't do it at this part of the day, they don't feel that they could potentially succeed if they were to do it another part of the day. And so I feel like it may also create a mental trap. I think that people will find if they take your advice and they just go do it in the morning randomly, they'll see like, dang, it was a little bit of a struggle to get started, but I still did it. For me, that's
mhm.
even more empowering. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that actually, you just made me think of something that I learned a long time ago. There's this little exercise, like say there's a restaurant you go to regularly. Maybe not these days. Maybe this is a bad example, but bear with me. You go to this restaurant regularly. Maybe you eat lunch there every day on your lunch break. Do you sit in the same chair every day? If you do, go sit in a different chair. It's going to feel a little bit weird for a second. It really will. You think this is a little different. But after a few minutes, it's like like it was never an issue. The reason I bring this up is because we're a prisoner of our own habits, and habits may have a strong hold, but once you break the hold, it gets easier and easier. It's like if you're inside an egg. Initially, it's hard to break out, but once you make that first crack, it gets easier, and gets easier, and then you can. That's another kind of facet to establishing habits.
Yeah. We have a comment from Mike. He says, wow, plateauing mentally, something I don't think about. Variety is important. I agree.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Awesome. So, getting along with the implementing habits, Let's say for example, we have someone who may be stuck. Maybe they're trying to figure out some ways to shake things up. What type of advice or tips would you advise for these guys? I know that we have 3 tips that you have for everyone, so let's go ahead and get started with that. What would be tip number 1 for you?
Okay. I do have some tips because let me just say a lot of the time you'll hear people when they give advice, when they ask about these kinds of things, mindset, and what people won't tell you specific things you can do, like action steps that will actually get you there. So I'm glad we're talking about this. The first rule, or first tip, is something that's called the 80-20 rule. I'm sure you've heard of it. A lot of you folks out there, I'm sure, have heard of it. The idea that we have to start over when we make a mistake in our plans moving towards our goals, right? Like, people will, over the holidays, big example here, they're losing weight, they're exercising. Holidays come, I'm going to stop my fitness routine for the holidays, eat all this food, and then start over, right? Because they weren't adhering to it perfectly. The 80-20 rule is the idea that we're not going to be perfect. We shouldn't expect perfection, and we definitely shouldn't punish ourselves when we're anything less than perfect. So the idea is that if you are consistent in your good habits 80% of the time and allow yourself 20% margin for, cheat meals, maybe your a little extra rest day, or maybe a lighter workout, things like that. As long as you stick to your plans 80% of the time, you will make progress, guaranteed, all the time. Because I hate it when people will be doing so well, they'll have one weekend where they just ate a cheat meal turned into a cheat weekend, and they think they have to start over. Like, no, you've been doing great for a month. Why would you let one weekend ruin all that? Just pick yourself up and keep going, right?
Dig it. That's a different twist on the whole 80-20 rule. I know I've definitely heard it as far as the like organizing your week and expecting 80% of your results to come from 20% of your work. I don't think I've heard it put in the aspect of training and nutrition and things like that. So let's definitely. All right. So what would number 2 be? I know you said you had 3 of them.
Yeah. So one thing that people, and this is a biological trick you can use. It's something that will actually help you. Try it and you'll see. When you eat, you know what portion size is, you know how much you should. The rule here is something I like to call the 20-minute rule. And the 20-minute rule is very simple. You eat your serving of food. Say you're eating dinner. You eat your first serving of dinner, and before you add anything else, set a timer for 20 minutes. Why 20 minutes? Because that is the amount of time it takes for your brain and your stomach to communicate with each other that you are indeed full. You may have had those experiences where you're just stuffing your face, you're so hungry, and then all of a sudden, boom, I can't eat another bite. There's no in between there. You go from ravenously hungry to hitting that wall. What that is your brain and your stomach saying, whoa, we're full. You should have stopped 10 minutes ago. So give that a try. It will help you. This is a physiological fact as far as the bureaucracy of your body. Try it, and if you're still hungry after that 20 minutes, chug some water, maybe have a few bites of something, and then set a timer again for another 20 minutes. And if you're still hungry at that point, then maybe you need to look at how many calories you're getting throughout the day, because then we want to look a little deeper. But the 20-minute rule is a solid thing. Try it for yourself.
I am going to take you up on that, my good sir. I haven't eaten dinner yet. It's going to be a late one for me. So I'll definitely make sure to do that 20-minute rule and attempt tonight. All right. So let's go ahead and hit number 3. What is your number 3?
Okay. Number 3. Oh, excuse me. You know what? I can't read my handwriting here. So why don't we put it up on the board there? There we go. Keep it fun. I'm left-handed and my handwriting is terrible, but yes, keep it fun. If you let's say you have the greatest workout in the world. Every little bit of science is behind it. It's the perfect amount of reps and sets and calories and macros for your body, but you hate it. You think it's going to work? Of course it's not going to work because you're not going to do it. The general thing is, if you especially if you're just starting out, it gets different as you get more advanced, of course, but if you're just starting out, you don't need to overthink it, because doing anything is going to be better than doing nothing. So especially in the beginning and all throughout, of course, keep it fun. If you are starting out in your journey here and you just hate every second of it, how long do you really think you're gonna stick with it? Then you're gonna quit. You're gonna get frustrated that you did quit, and you're gonna do that whole starting over thing that we talked about again. And that's just not what we want to do. So if you don't feel like doing a certain thing and you want to change it up, still get your workout in, just go do something different if you want to. Don't overthink so much about the specifics of what you're doing, because you're still going to see results as long as you stay consistent. The learning and the establishing all the education on what works and what science is, and fine-tuning all that and dialing all that in, you don't have to do all that right away. You don't have, and you especially don't have to do it before you get started. So just get going, have some fun, get yourself moving, learn as you go. That's how we get better, and that's what makes the journey fun.
Heck yeah, I definitely agree with that. And those are some super solid tips, man. Super solid tips. What was I going to say? I had
All
something.
right, for a second.
Let's go ahead and check the comments out real quick and see what they're saying. Let's see. We have good tips from Amy.
Thanks, Amy.
Michael has a question. I'll let you tackle it. He says, "Isn't it a general rule of thumb to eat until you are not hungry, not until you are full?"
I would say yes, but you have to get to know yourself first in that, because your brain can lie to you. Your habits that you've had as far as how much you eat can kind of lie to you, because you know how much a serving of food is. Let's take peanut butter for example. A tablespoon of peanut butter is, maybe about yay big, the size of a quarter or so, nothing too big. But if you go into the peanut butter jar and you get a spoonful, you're likely to get like 3 or 4, and your brain thinks that that's a serving, when in fact you've just taken 1,000 calories in one bite or two.
Right.
But yes, that is true. Once you get to know your body intuitively, that's one of the that you don't have to necessarily do the 20-minute rule forever, but it is a wonderful tool to help you get to know yourself and establish where you actually are not hungry versus full, because you have to find out where those points are before you can reliably use that. Does that make sense, Michael?
Let's wait for Mike to hop in. While we're waiting, though, we had someone on here named Sybil. She's actually one of the moderators in the Three Pillars group, and
Okay.
she actually specializes in helping people become more familiar with intuitive eating. And she talked to us about that. And so she pretty much said the exact same thing you're saying. So that's very refreshing. And Mike said yes.
Great question, Mike.
Natasha said, "I agree. These have all been helpful tips." And I don't know about you, but I know quite a few people in the group love peanut butter, myself included. And so we definitely enjoy that example.
I mean, I use a lot of my examples from personal experience, so I'm right there with you guys for sure.
All right. So let's see. We got another comment. Let's check it out. Pretty big one. I'm actually going to go ahead and let you tackle this one. Like they're just talking amongst each other, but dig it. Yeah. Like I said, people love peanut butter, man.
Mhm.
All right. So while we're waiting to see if any more comments come in, would you mind sharing with the people a little bit more in terms of your philosophy, in the form of what would your words of wisdom be to encourage someone who may or may not be thinking about, embarking on a new fitness journey, or maybe not even embarking on a fitness journey. Maybe they just want to create some new changes in their lives. Maybe they to implement some new habits, what would your words of wisdom be to help them get started on that?
Well, there are a lot, I think, but first I would say just get started. Learn as you go. You don't have to master a thing before you begin a thing. Beyond that, you only fail when you give up. Like I was saying before, there are going to be setbacks, and all this starting over stuff is a cycle that we get into that really, really puts us behind and stops us from getting our goals. That's how we spin our tires for years on end, constantly starting over, constantly making the same New Year's resolutions. So stop starting over and just keep going. It's all about keeping on going. Once you've started, that's it. If you run into a period of time where you can't, where you fall off the wagon, so to speak, for a couple of weeks or something, you're not starting over. You're just going to pick up and keep going, because that stuff happens. And it's okay that that stuff happens, because we've all been there, and we all have to just keep going. That's really the best advice I can give. Stop starting over, because you will never get to your destination if you start over all the time. Be stuck in the mud and never going.
Definitely agree with that. That was very solid. I remember, not to take over or get long winded, but I know whenever I run, I can't run 16,000 miles. Sometimes I get to mile number 2 out of a 4-mile run, and I'm like, oh my God. Like, if I could just fast forward in time a little bit, that would be helpful. But one thing I find for myself that keeps me going is to realize I don't have to run the same speed all the time. I can slow down. As long as I don't stop, I'm still in the run. And so I definitely find a lot of weight in what you just said. Like, that was great, man. Thank you.
Of course. I like your running analogy. That's a perfect comparison, for sure.
Thanks, sir. All right, so let's go ahead and revisit your tips real quick and see if we get any more questions or comments. I don't know how familiar you are with, what is that, Dora the Explorer, but Natasha said, just keep swimming.
Yeah. Just keep swimming.
Amy said, just get started and keep going and don't give up. Very nice, guys. Very nice. All right, so to go ahead and recap for some people who just may be tuning in, or maybe you're catching on the replay and you're unsure of what the tips were because you just heard so many great things, you don't know where to begin. Tip number 1 was the 80-20 rule. Tip number 2 was the 20-minute rule. And tip number 3 was to keep it fun. We're not going to recap what those things were, because now you have the opportunity to go back and watch it for yourself. And if you guys enjoy this material and you want to hear more from my guy, Chris, please find him on Facebook. He has a Facebook group. He also has his own personal page. Great guy, great material. I'm an avid listener and viewer. A lot of great things happen there. I think we have another question coming in from Michael. It says, some mornings I don't feel awesome, but go anyway. Just change it up to match your ability. Total believer. Thanks, Chris.
My pleasure. And that's how we do it, man. There it is.
For sure, for sure. All right. So again, if you guys want to find Chris, find him on Facebook. Again, he has his personal page. He has this business page, and he also has an awesome group. Would you mind filling him in on the name of your Facebook group?
Sure. The name of my group is the Fitness Roadmap for Relentless Professionals. I've got exercise demonstrations, healthy recipes, maybe some not as healthy recipes, but definitely delicious. Mindset, motivation, all kinds of great stuff in there, and it's a wonderful community. We're growing, and it's just a place that we can all get together and really support each other in relentlessly pursuing our goals.
Awesome, awesome. I like that. I like that. Natasha said, fantastic live, a lot of great information. And I have to agree, Chris, it was awesome having you on. I really do appreciate you staying up late and coming on here and kicking it with me.
Hey, it's my pleasure. The honor's mine, man. And thank you, Natasha. It was great to be here talking to y'all.
All right, awesome, awesome. We may give it another second or two, but in the meantime, while we wait to see if there's any more questions, I want to thank all you guys for tuning in and for being such great question askers. You guys were the lifeblood of this show tonight. We definitely appreciate the turnout. I know I definitely appreciate the turnout. If you're watching this from my personal page or from Chris's page and we have not seen your questions or comments, him or I will get to you as soon as this show is over. I'm pretty sure he'll be going through and seeing what and seeing what happened, and I'll be doing the same. So if we didn't answer your question or see you, don't worry, we will see you and you will be heard. Thank you so much for taking the opportunity to tune in. And thank you so much, Chris, for coming on again. I really do appreciate it, man.
Thank you, John. It was my pleasure. Thank you again for inviting me.
All right, awesome. All right, that's going to do it for us tonight. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. If you did, drop down in the comments and tell me what your favorite tip was. And also, don't be afraid. I highly recommend it, actually, to go check out my guy, Chris, and check out what he's about. All right, I hope you guys have a great night. Hope you guys have a great week and a great weekend. And as always, before I say it, do you have anything else for the people?
Keep on going. Get started. Don't give up.
Awesome. Like he said, and my little 2 cents, keep pushing. Greatness awaits.
Here we go.